Welcome back to Q-Dads, guys, and yes, it's me, Ben, with the greatest episode of Foundation ever. And as you can tell by the thumbnail, I've honoured one of the greatest characters in the Foundation series, and that is Becky. But this episode for me is one of my favourites, and that's because it's so action-packed and almost puts all of the key players to where they need to be. You know, they've kind of been pushing towards each other for a while now, but this is the one episode where there's that particular moment that is pivotal and almost forces all these separate jigsaw pieces together. And I'll explain what I mean about that in just a moment. But as always, please do hit that subscribe button and join us in the comments. So one of the great details that I noticed straight away was the use of the Shadow Master silencer. So in the very first scene, we see Rue kind of walking through Demoiselles' quarters, and we see it again later on with Dusk. And this is how the Shadow Masters essentially earn their names and sneak around, but silencing the senses and the sounds that that person makes until they switch it off. So ultimately, you can sneak up behind someone without them hearing you. And of course, this is where Rue tells Dusk about the fact that they can restore his memories and offers to restore all of his that are missing. But unfortunately, they don't get a chance to see any of that through, as we'll find out in the next episode. Now, as part of their investigation, they find a section of the mural that has a green mark on the neck. And just above that is our solar system. That's right, it's Earth. But of course, I'm going to leave that there, but do tune into my episode 9 review because I'm going to discuss a little theory around Earth and how it connects into Foundation from my point of view anyway. We then get Tell Bond, who essentially confesses everything to Sal and Gale, and it turns out that they are in fact imprisoned and they're being blocked by some kind of preventative device that stops them from reading their minds or knowing what is real, and it also enhances the ability of Tell Bond getting in there and her influence on them both. But of course, drum roll, the moment you've all been waiting for, and that is the execution of Brother Constant and Polly. Now, they are brought up at the top of one of the Imperial Towers, and this is actually being broadcast across the galaxy, which is phenomenal. And of course, Day walks out with his subjects around him and holds up the collar of Typhon, which is going to be used to decapitate both Constant and Polly. Now, in this moment, everyone is thinking about Brother Constant, who goes first, and then she begins to pray. Now, in this moment, she begins to talk about the Spirit and how she puts all of her faith within the Spirit. Now, of course, this is referring to the religion of Foundation, but in fact could also be referring to the actual ship that saves the day in the moment, called the Spirit. She's making an actual prayer to the Church of Selden, but is in fact having a physical spirit save her. I thought that was a great detail. And then, yes, we get a sixth sense from Demoiselle as she knows what's about to happen, and that is Hober Mello jumping his ship directly above everyone and blowing them all back, causing destruction and ultimately unleashing his hell. And this is where I spoke about at the start, those jigsaw pieces of each person connecting together. So they've had this build up, you know, throughout the whole series. And in this moment, we're finally getting them all connect together. So, for example, Sereth and Dawn ultimately reach out and grab each other, connecting themselves and, of course, sealing that bond even further. We get Rue and Dusk sharing a brief moment, which again is lovely to see. And of course, we get Brother Constant and Hober Mello, who are about to make that final link and that connection as they also link together. And if you play that same concept and mentality around Day and Demoiselle, when Demoiselle was on top of Day, he tells her to get off him, which actually isn't those jigsaw pieces fitting together and does foreshadow his eventual death and that couple kind of going their separate ways in the final episode. So all the other characters are working together. Dusk and Rue die together. Dawn and Sereth escape together. Brother Constant and Hober, although they take a little bit more time to connect together, they are together for the rest of the season until they then split apart again at the final episode. But in here, Day and Demoiselle's bond is broken And we see that broken again at the end of the episode. I think it was just a nice bit of symmetry, and that's my representation of it anyway. But of course, after this, we then learn that Day's aura is damaged, and then we get to see Becky, who comes out and causes chaos. She kills a few of the guards, takes a big bite into Day, which I loved, but unfortunately, she is shot and falls off the edge. And for the first time around, my heart was broken. And watching this a second time round, my heart was broken. You know what? Let's just take a quick short moment for Becky.
Let's go, come on. Becky's arsehole.
But back to reality. So they have a meeting afterwards, and this is where Sereth gets onto Day's side and persuades him to ultimately go to Terminus and make that journey himself, leaving Trantor so then her and Dawn can secure their future, the ultimate act of betrayal. But moving back to Ignis for just one moment, we then do get to see Sal, who begins to enter into the Prime Radiant herself. Now, first of all, when did we see her grab this from the ship? This whole storyline confuses me, and how long they've actually been in prison. How much of what they see with Tell and Bond was real? And first of all, how did she get that Prime Radiant? Because when Gale and Tellum were on the ship and they were confronting each other, it was there on the table. And at that point, has Sal gone back to the ship? Because after that moment, the ship was meant to have taken off, so she wouldn't have known that the ship was still there. And later on in the series, when they're heading back to the beggar, and Gale does mention that it's over there, still crashed. Meaning, at what point did Sal take the Prime Radiant from the beggar? Genuinely, I have no idea, and I can't pinpoint it together. Please, if someone knows that answer, let me know in the comments. But she does go through this quantum device and ends up speaking to Vault Harry, who of course learns the new information about Harry 2.0, and is doing so, Sal reveals that in fact she is the passing ghost, and gives Vault Harry the name Hober Mallow, which then he obviously starts this whole cycle to lead to where we are now. And it's worth pointing out here that Vault Harry is talking about another version of him existing, and potentially other foundations, and we actually see his reflection cascaded in a mirror, almost like an infinite number, so to speak. So this refers to the fact that there could be an infinite number of Harrys and Prime Radiants that exist within the world, considering that the device, of course, is of a quantum superposition. We then get Dusk and Rue, who uncover the secret chamber, the place to where Demoiselle has been locked up for thousands of years, whilst they are trying to uncover the secrets of the Galactic Empire. Dawn and Sereth, essentially have sex, and there's no nice way about saying it, but that puts them onto the journey that they're about to take with each other. And then we learn two things in this episode as it ends. We learn that Tell and Bond is about to swap bodies with Gale, and the fact that Demoiselle is considered to be Empire herself. Her love for Cleon and Cleon's love for her. So when she always says, I do what's best for Empire, she technically means I do what's best for myself. And of course, the longevity, not only of her own life, but humanity's too. Because without humanity, she has no way of fixing the code. And that is it, guys. Again, I'm going to throw it over to you because I'm biased. This is my favourite episode. But what did you think? Like I say, for me, it was the best of both seasons. And, I'm not saying that just because I have a personal attachment to Becky. But I really feel that this episode was full of action. A lot of meaningful dialogue. And like I say, the fact that everyone then begins to connect together for the final parts of their journey. I think this really sets the stage for where we're heading. And we've got Foundation versus Empire, but yet we've also got that underlying seed with an Empire, which is Demoiselle, trying to create those roots anywhere she can just for survival. And then on the other hand, we have Foundation, who has got multiple different versions and different secrets, and are all intertwined in this mad, crazy web that no one fully understands. And that's it, guys. Over to you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this episode. Please share a little moment for Becky in the comments. And thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time with something new.